On the plains of Troy, a storm was coming. Achilles had returned. The air itself seemed to tremble with anticipation, as if the very earth knew that history was about to be rewritten. The clouds above swirled with a fury that mirrored the turmoil in Achilles' heart, casting long shadows over the blood-soaked ground where heroes had already fallen. His grief for Patroclus had become a weapon, his rage a force of nature. Every step he took was heavy with sorrow, but also with a burning resolve. The pain of loss had transformed him, forging his spirit into something unbreakable, something terrifying. The memory of his friend's laughter haunted him, fueling a wrath that no mortal could withstand. No longer sulking, he was vengeance incarnate, clad in God-forged armor. The bronze plates gleamed with an otherworldly light, each piece a gift from the gods, each dent a testament to battles survived. Achilles stood taller than before, his eyes cold and unyielding, his presence alone enough to silence the bravest of men. His war cry shattered the courage of the Trojans. Even seasoned warriors trembled. The sound echoed across the plain, a chilling reminder that death was near. Shields rattled, spears wavered, and the once mighty Trojan ranks faltered, their confidence crumbling in the face of Achilles' fury. Achilles was not fighting for glory, but to avenge a stolen part of himself. The loss of Patroclus had left a wound deeper than any blade could carve, and now every blow he struck was a cry for justice, a desperate attempt to fill the void left behind. His sorrow was etched into every movement, every strike, every breath. The ground shook beneath his chariot, the Trojans' proud lines crumbled in terror. Dust rose in swirling clouds as horses thundered forward, scattering enemies like leaves before a storm. The battlefield became a place of chaos, where hope faded and fear reigned. Hector had warned them to retreat, but now they were trapped, exposed to Achilles' wrath. The Trojans looked to their leaders for guidance, but found only fear reflected in their eyes. There was no escape from the storm that Achilles had become. The gods watched as the balance of the war shifted. Achilles' return was a cosmic event. The heavens themselves seemed to pause, sunlight breaking through the clouds as if to bear witness to the unfolding drama. Every immortal eye was fixed on the mortal below, sensing that the fate of Troy, and perhaps all of Greece, hung in the balance. Even the immortals felt compelled to intervene, drawn by the gravity of his grief. The gods whispered among themselves, debating whether to aid or hinder the unstoppable force Achilles had become. His pain resonated through Olympus, a reminder that even the greatest heroes are shaped by loss. The fate of Troy now hung by a thread. The city's walls, once symbols of strength, now seemed fragile and vulnerable. Every heartbeat, every moment, brought the city closer to ruin or redemption. Achilles' return was more than a man rejoining battle. It was the beginning of a new, darker chapter. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows as the world braced for what was to come. The Greeks felt hope rekindled, while the Trojans tasted despair. The world held its breath as the greatest warrior charged, and the heavens prepared to tremble. Every eye, mortal and divine, watched as Achilles surged forward, spear in hand, ready to carve his name into legend once more. The legend was reborn, and the war would never be the same. Achilles' fury would echo through the ages, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, a single soul can change the course of history forever. High on Olympus, Zeus watched the world below with a gaze both stern and contemplative, his throne perched above the swirling clouds. From this lofty seat he surveyed the mortal realm, his mind heavy with the weight of fate and the chaos brewing beneath him. On the plains of Troy, Achilles' fury ignited the battlefield like a raging wildfire. His wrath was legendary, and every swing of his sword sent shockwaves through the ranks of friend and foe alike, turning the tide of battle with sheer force of will. The war had reached a breaking point. Mortal and divine destinies collided in a storm of blood and ambition. The boundaries between gods and men blurred, as if Olympus itself leaned closer to the earth, drawn by the intensity of human struggle. Sensing the gravity of the moment, Zeus summoned the gods, Hera, Poseidon, Apollo, Athena, and all the rest, to his marble palace. Each deity arrived, their faces etched with concern and curiosity, aware that the fate of Troy and the world hung in the balance. The air crackled with anticipation as Zeus, with a thunderous gesture, lifted his ban on divine intervention. The gods, who had watched in silence, now felt the thrill of impending action surge through them. Achilles' rage threatened to unravel fate itself. The gods were now free to join the fray, their powers poised to tip the scales of destiny. The very fabric of the world seemed to tremble at the prospect of their involvement. The Trojan War was no longer a struggle of men, but a cosmic contest, where every clash echoed in the heavens and every hero's fate was a thread in a tapestry woven by immortal hands. Zeus would remain above, holding the scales of destiny with unwavering resolve, his eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. But the other gods, eager and divided, would descend to the mortal realm, ready to shape the outcome. The gods' allegiances would shape every clash, every hero's fate, as they chose sides with passion and cunning, their rivalries and alliances echoing those of the mortals below. The battlefield was now a chessboard for immortals, each move a calculated risk, each sacrifice a step toward victory or ruin. The time for watching was over. The gods would walk among men, their presence turning the tide and rewriting the story of the war with every step. The war's true nature was revealed, a struggle that would shake both Earth and Olympus, echoing through eternity as a testament to the power and peril of divine intervention. The divine floodgates had opened, and the world would never be the same. With Zeus's decree, Olympus fractured. Gods chose their sides. Hera, Athena, Poseidon, and Hephaestus rallied to the Greeks, driven by old grudges and loyalties. Their presence brought hope to the Achaeans, a promise of victory. Apollo, Artemis, Ares, and Aphrodite stood with Troy, each bound by love, vengeance, or fate. The river god Scamander joined to protect his land. The battlefield became a stage for divine rivalries, ancient feuds reignited. Every god's choice tipped the scales, every intervention changed the course of war. Mortals fought, but the gods' hands guided every blow. The stage was set for a conflict beyond imagination. The war would now be decided by both men and immortals. The gods' arrival transformed the war into chaos and spectacle. Poseidon's trident shook the earth, Ares' war cry shattered courage. Athena and Apollo empowered their champions, while gods clashed in the heart of battle. Mortals became collateral in divine duels, obliterated by forces beyond comprehension. Weapons blazed with otherworldly power, the laws of nature bent and broke. Zeus watched, holding fate's scales, ensuring destiny stayed its course. The gods battled for pride and vengeance, but the tapestry of fate remained in Zeus's hands. The war was now a cosmic drama, mortals and gods entwined. Amid chaos, Achilles hunted Hector but met Aeneas, son of Aphrodite. Aeneas, emboldened by Apollo, stood to face Achilles, duty against rage. Achilles mocked him, but Aeneas reminded him of their shared divine blood. Aeneas's spear struck Achilles' shield, but Hephaestus' work held firm. Achilles' counterattack tore through Aeneas' defenses, nearly ending him. Realizing his peril, Aeneas charged desperately, but Achilles was ready. Fate intervened. Poseidon, knowing Aeneas' destiny, shrouded Achilles in mist. In a blink, Aeneas vanished, whisked to safety at the battlefield's edge. Achilles was denied his kill, but destiny demanded Aeneas survive. The gods' will was clear. Some lives were protected for greater purposes. Achilles' wrath would have to find another target. The duel ended not by skill, but by the hand of fate. The legend of Aeneas would continue. Blinded by loss and denied his rightful prize, Achilles' fury only grew, burning hotter with every passing moment. The death of Patroclus, his closest companion, had shattered what little restraint he had left. Now, grief and rage mingled within him, forging a wrath that seemed almost divine in its intensity. He became a whirlwind of death, cutting down Trojans without mercy or hesitation. Each swing of his sword was fueled by vengeance, and the battlefield echoed with the cries of those who dared to stand in his way. His divine armor, forged by Hephaestus himself, made him unstoppable. Spears and swords shattered against him, leaving his enemies hopeless and terrified. No mortal weapon could pierce his gleaming shield or dent his helmet. The Trojans, once proud and defiant, now fled in terror. But Achilles hunted them relentlessly, his voice a thunderous cry for Hector, the man he held responsible for his friend's death. Apollo, watching from above, knew Hector's fate was not yet sealed. The god shielded Hector with thick fog and sent warnings, weaving illusions to keep him from Achilles' wrath. Achilles, deceived by Apollo's tricks, rampaged on, his thirst for vengeance unquenched. He struck down every Trojan in his path, his anger blinding him to all but his need for retribution. He slaughtered all in his path, driving the Trojans toward the Scamander River, their only hope of escape. The ground was slick with blood and the air thick with fear. Even desperate pleas for mercy fell on deaf ears. Achilles was executioner, not hero. His heart, once capable of compassion, was now hardened by loss and rage. The river ran red with blood, and the gods watched in silence as mortal and immortal destinies collided. The world seemed to hold its breath, sensing the magnitude of Achilles' wrath. Achilles' path led him to a confrontation with a power older than Olympus itself, the river god Scamander, who rose in anger at the carnage polluting his waters. His rage had become legend, but it threatened to consume him entirely. The line between man and monster blurred as Achilles pressed on, haunted by grief and driven by vengeance. The war's tragedy deepened with every life he took, leaving behind only sorrow and ruin. The cost of his wrath was measured in countless lives and broken families. As the dust settled and the world braced for what would come next, the legend of Achilles' unstoppable rage echoed across the ages, a warning of the devastation that unchecked fury can bring. Achilles drove Trojans into the Scamander River, turning its waters red with blood. The river, sacred and alive, became a graveyard, its god, Scamander, enraged by the carnage. Scamander rose as a towering wave, demanding Achilles end his slaughter. Achilles, defiant, refused to yield, vowing to kill every Trojan in his path. The river god unleashed a monstrous flood, determined to drown the invincible warrior. Achilles fought the current, but the river's wrath was overwhelming. Debris and corpses battered him, his armor weighed him down. Scamander uprooted trees, pulling Achilles deeper into the torrent. For a moment it seemed Achilles would perish, not by blade, but by the will of a god. The greatest warrior was nearly undone by his own violence. The river's vengeance was relentless. The fate of Achilles hung in the balance. Hera, seeing Achilles in peril, called on Hephaestus to save him. Hephaestus unleashed divine fire, scorching the plain and boiling the river. Scamander, overwhelmed by flame, pleaded for mercy and ceased his attack. The river receded, Achilles was saved, but the gods' war had only begun. The battlefield erupted in divine chaos. Ares clashed with Athena, their power shaking the earth. Athena struck Ares down with a massive stone. Aphrodite rushed to help, only to be felled herself. The gods' rivalries spilled over, overshadowing mortal struggles. The thin veneer of Olympian civility was gone, ancient grudges ruled. The war among mortals was now dwarfed by the war among gods. The plain became a theater of cosmic violence. Every blow, every fall echoed through both worlds. The gods' fury knew no bounds. The mortal war was now a mere backdrop to divine spectacle. As gods battled, Apollo focused on saving the Trojans from Achilles' wrath. He inspired Agenor to stand against Achilles, buying precious time. Agenor's spear bounced harmlessly off Achilles' divine armor. As Achilles charged, Apollo whisked Agenor away in a mist, then took his form. Achilles, fooled, chased the phantom across the plain, his vengeance blinding him to the ruse. Meanwhile, the Trojan army escaped through the city gates, which slammed shut behind them. Apollo revealed himself, leaving Achilles furious and alone. The hero realized he'd been tricked, his chance for slaughter lost. As he turned back, the city was sealed, the Trojans safe. Only one man remained outside the walls. Hector stood alone, waiting for Achilles. The final confrontation was at hand. The fate of Troy would be decided in single combat.